Hello, so today's just going to be another VOD review. Basically what I'm going to be going over is, it basically ends up being a faded game, like just the typical faded Syndra line, which we can talk about. Originally I was trying to play towards some sort of Umbral line. Note that the stage is 2-3, just the recording for the first couple rounds was screwed up, so we're a little bit into it. Just note that so far there were just 2 encounters. The game started with Lilia encounter, so it can just be random augments whenever. And the other encounter was that Nara showed up, so I can reroll the augments in the next stage, or in the next augment I can reroll each of the options. So in general, typically when it's a Lilia encounter, the main thing that I start to think about is like maybe there's like a reroll line I can play. With Lilia encounter, it really matters to be strong very early. Sometimes you can get bailed out by augments, and sometimes augments can make you very strong. So if you don't have augments for a very long period of time, sometimes the Lilia encounter you can just not have an augment for the whole game, right? Then you're kind of relying primarily on your board strength and your HP to make you through. So sometimes being strong earlier, so for example if you commit to some sort of reroll line, you'll be really strong early, and then it works out really nicely for late game. Since you basically have a lot of HP to work with, then when you get your final augments, you can kind of like pick something that fits your board, and you'll still be like in a very good top 4able spot, as opposed to like playing for hitting something late game, and then if your augment doesn't work out with that, then you don't have the HP and the board strength in order to recover, and then you just kind of go 8th, right? So here I'm kind of looking around. I don't have items for long shot, so I can't really do it. I also didn't take, let me see, I ended up taking fully adaptive, but I think the first thing that I rolled, let me just see. So I think I rolled lucky pause. Yeah. So patient study, okay, let's just go through. There's a lot of augments to pick. So patient study is like all right. I don't necessarily know if I'm playing patient study. Lucky pause is really strong. I just didn't take it because it's a little bit too late, right? You already have to be collecting Kabukos, and I haven't been holding on to any of them. So I'm just scared that I might not hit Kabuko 3. I also don't have like insanely good Kabuko items on bench that I can make it do with what I have. I reroll everything basically. The main thing to note is that 2 healthy is probably the best choice that I should have taken, and I should have played towards like a Zyra line with 2 healthy, and it would have been very strong. I ended up taking fully adaptive because I've been trying to play around Umbrals a lot. I have an Alloon that I'm holding on bench. It's costing me a little bit of econ, and I really want to play towards like an Umbral line, just because I haven't had a video on it, and I think Umbral is very, very strong. Umbral really unlocks itself if you have a spat, right? Having an Umbral +1 is what makes it really broken, but you can still play it without the Umbral +1. Fully adaptive, if we look at the stats, which we will in a second, it's pretty good with Umbral. 2 healthy would have been the better choice, and the main reason for fully adaptive being good here is because I already have an adaptive helm 2 slam, right? I'm win streaking, right? Fully adaptive makes me immediately stronger because I will have be able to slam 2 adaptive helms with fully adaptive on my Darius, which is already doing a shit ton of damage, and I can use that tempo to play around Umbral because Umbral is a very tempo based comp. So that's like my idea process behind it, right? You can't really play Umbral from behind. Usually you play it from a lead, and then you like go for your 3 stars on level 9, right? You try and get your 6 Umbral and have a set 2 upgraded and a Silas 2 upgraded, and then that's how the Umbral line kind of works. Anyway, we won't talk much more about the Umbral line because I end up not taking it. We'll look at the stats now. 1 second. It'd be like right here. But before we do that, let's just do the quick little thing. Thank you for all the support. If you haven't subscribed, make sure to subscribe. We're gonna have an RP giveaway at 500 subs. We just finished our previous giveaway, so make sure to subscribe if you want to be entered in that, and follow the instructions when we get close to our goal. Thank you. Alright, so here I'm just looking at the stats for fully adaptive, right? If you look at like delta and relative delta, besides like just having like the giga units of doom, right, like the 5-star units, Soraka typically does, I'm not sure we're supposed to sort by delta or relative delta, but typically like what you see is like Alloon, Yone, Silas, like basically Yorick, all the Umbral units kind of collect themselves towards the top, especially if you put relative delta, so like relative to like actually using this augment, right? There's some units like Dryad reroll that's obviously going to be very strong, right? Just playing towards Dryads, but also Umbral is really strong, right? The reason Dryads are very strong is because giving the armor and the casting for both like Kindred and Gnar. Kindred that can also, like, if you watched my video yesterday, that's very strong. Kindred can sometimes just like run into the front line and then die, so fully adaptive is really good, right? If we look at like the deltas for these, right, snipers and dryads, obviously these are all going to be very strong when you have these like really high vertical traits. But 6 Umbral is also surprisingly very, very high up. It has a really good average placement below 4, right, compared to some of the other ones. Like obviously 6 Dryad's really good, 4 Umbral is really strong, and 6 Umbral, they're very high up on this list, right? So in my head, the way I'm thinking about it is like, maybe I can play some kind of Dryad Umbral line, right, where I can play like 4 Dryad, 4 Umbral. Maybe I can just play like a straight up Umbral line. But that's what I was thinking about when I was taking it. And like, you know, if we go back to like all gold augments, I just want to point out, right, obviously Lucky Paws was something that was offered significantly better, 2 healthy significantly better, long shot significantly better. I didn't really have sniper items, so I didn't want to take long shot. I didn't have the best I didn't have Kabukos on bench, nor did I have Kabuko items, so I was scared to take Lucky Paws. It might have been a good idea. 2 healthy is what you should have taken. What I should have taken, and what you should typically take in those cases. And then you can just play like some spammy 2-cost board, like Zyra reroll, for example. And you'll just have so much tempo and so much HP to work with that it'll be very strong. And as you can see, fully adaptive is way, way worse. And you see, like, sometimes people play with like Dryads and like the Faded, and the reason people play it with Faded is because there's that Syndra tech where you just play double adaptive helm on Syndra, and it's supposedly supposed to be really, really strong. I don't believe in it. I don't like it, but with fully adaptive, it's a little bit better. But I think it's not as good, right? Which we'll go over after in a second. The other stats, I'm just opening it up for later. Let's go back to the game. So I find a Yone. I can play like 4 Umbral right now, which is what I end up doing. I win streak this whole stage, so I feel like I'm in a good Umbral spot. And I find a second Alun here, right? Which is really cool. So I decide, okay, what should I make here? Spark would be really nice, but I decided to just make anti-heal at this point because the reason I don't make Spark first is because if I'm playing Alun on my board, as I am right now, then Alun has a bit of shred. Right, so what I want to do is I say to myself, okay, I'll make a Morello first, right? That's my thought process, right? Because I already have some shred currently on my team comp, so I might as well just make a little bit of anti-heal, and then I'll worry about like making a dedicated shred component later. That's the idea, or that's my thought process for it. I think prioritizing what you have the least of is typically a little bit better than just like maxing a stat, because it's a little bit of diminished returns, right? Like I already have 20% magic resistance shred with the Alun being on the board. So I'm in a very strong spot. This is the type of spot you want to be in for an Umbral game. You really want to play towards having a strong opener, because you want to try and tempo. This comp is really strong when you can tempo to level 9. Typically you want an Umbral +1. If you have an Umbral +1, you put it on Irelia, and it's absolutely fucking broken. It's like, you know, S tier comp in that case. If not, it's like, you know, you kind of can play for a top 4. Here I'm just fixing up my little dudes, and I'm just setting up the Umbral. I know, like, if you watched the start of the video, as well as if you saw the thumbnail, this is gonna end up being a Faded game. I have to pivot because somebody does try and contest Umbral, or is holding a bunch of Umbral units, and I hit like Syndra 2 before I hit Alun 2, even though I have 2 Aluns on bench, I think. Like some whack shit happens, so I decide that, okay, I'll just play towards Faded, and I do a bit of a messy transition, and it cost me some placements, but it's just something to take into account, and I think, you know, we'll VOD review it, and hopefully it's a good example of how to change game plans, right? So here I'm kind of like, you know, playing towards this line, thinking like, okay, I can play like a reroll. Hopefully I can roll on level 8, right? Even though Umbrals are typically like a level 7, you have the option of finding like the Yone and Alun, and you 3-star both of them. It's pretty bad. You want to really roll on 8 because you need to find like Silas and Set, and you also need to make it so that you have enough space to fit them in. Here I just put in a Kog'Maw for Invoker. I would have ideally liked to put in a Behemoth here, but I didn't really hold on to any of them. I'm trying to max out my econ, or do as well as I can with my econ. Also, sorry that there's no pen in this video as well. The penmanship, like me drawing on the board, is going to come later. This guy is who I was talking about. So they're just holding a bunch of Umbral units, and they have a Silas already. Right, I think when I check back later on this board in particular, they're gonna have like 2 Silases on bench, and I don't know if like this item that they're putting on Silas is like a Giga Silas item. I don't think so, but like there's nothing I can really do about this, right? I am win streak. I could bully them off the line, but I'm scared that being in this line, contested, I might, like, you know, obviously I'm trying to reroll and gather as many units as possible. I'll be in a really bad spot. I'm also not getting carousel pick priority, so there's no way I'm getting the Silas. And yeah, they're just holding Umbral units. Like, even though I'm in first place and I have a bunch of Umbral units, I should check that item. Wait, let's go back a second. What is it? It looks like a little squiggly line. Items. Orn. Placement. Looks like a little squiggly line. Horizon focus. What does it do? Stunning an enemy causes lightning to strike. Does Silas even stun enemies? Maybe I got baited. Yeah, look at this. It's so bad on Silas. It's one of the worst ones to put it on. So who's it good on? It's good on Nautilus, it's good on Lux, and that's it. Yeah, it's good on units that stun. That's what I was saying. I don't think Silas stuns anybody. The fuck? Alright. That's my bad. I should have noticed. Oh, it's Prismatic. Okay, so Prismatic. Did I have an option of a... I think I got really, like screwed over by Prismatics here. So, like, I don't have good items for, Duelist. I see Duelist Crown. I see Invoker Crown. Invoker Crown might be good, but I don't really care about Invoker Crown. Blinding Speed isn't good. Overwhelming Force isn't good. So I just take Radiant Relics, I think. Either Unleashed Arcana or Radiant Relics. Oh, it's just so awful. Because I would have liked a combat augment here. And now I have to take like an item augment. Invoker Crown might have been okay. But then I would be playing towards Invokers. And it's a little bit awkward. Because I already have fully adaptive. So I already gain a bunch of mana off of those. So I wasn't really looking towards that. So now here I just take like a bunch of rods, right? Because this gives me Spark and it gives me Rabadon's JG that I can just put on somebody. I have a Magnetic Remover, so I should just slam both these items on a Loon right now. But I might want a Magnetic Remover the Darius later, so that's the only problem. This guy got a Heavenly Spat and has a Morgana already. I feel like the lobby's pretty high roll. Is this a Crab Rave game? I'm actually not sure. No, because it was Lilia Encounter, right? If it was Lilia Encounter, then it's just a Lilia game. But look, like there's a lot of people that have like 4 costs already. I think I lose my my win streak here. Yeah, that just sucks. But I really don't understand the guy that's just like putting a shit item on a Silas. Because I feel like that griefs the game. I had a feeling it was a bad item. Because I looked at the stats and I don't remember seeing it, right? Like there's certain items that you kind of know about, right? Like I know about like all the Orn items that are like good placement. It's like I know those are the good ones and how to play around them because it's important to know that. I just make a JG because I have like so much extra shit, or I just slam the JG on the dude on the Kog'Maw. But yeah, I don't get it. Because the problem isn't like is he gonna contest Umbral or whatever. The problem is it's like, how do I phrase it? It's a bad item on a Silas, so you shouldn't be putting that item on the Silas anyways. But the bigger problem is that if he's holding all these Umbral units on his bench to do this like Umbral pivot or keep this Umbral pivot open, it makes it really hard for me if I'm trying to reroll. Because look, I still don't have a Loon 2. You know what I mean? And now people are getting really strong. Like this Duelist guy, he hit like the best thing. Like this little like jewel thing for Duelist is like one of the best items you can get. And he has Keepers. He has Keepers, Duelist, plus a really strong Duelist support item. So I don't beat the Duelist guy, and there's no way I can pivot into Duelist. There's no way I can play Umbral because like I don't even have a Loon 2, right? I hit a Malphite now, so I'm able to actually... This is what I wanted to play like a turn or two ago. And this guy, he slammed Morello on the Alloon, so I like, you know, like the items are okay. I just don't think that I'll have the option to how do I phrase it? When you're going for a reroll line or you're going for something like this, it's not a matter of whether or not somebody else is contesting you that's a problem. It's more so like, what do I do about this in terms of like, I need to natural copies of these units, right? Like I need to find an Alloon 2 without rolling in order to tempo to level 9, because if I have to roll deep just for like an Alloon upgrade, I'm kind of fucked, right? And it's the same way for like a lot of the other units. You have to natural some of the copies of it so that you are able to tempo level in order to keep up pace, in order to like make it to like level 9 and have like an actual strong board. That's how the Umbral line kind of works, right? The Umbral line isn't really good. It's like, oh, I'm contested, I'm gonna roll really deep on level 7, I'm gonna hit a 3-star, and then I'm gonna level. It's like, no, you kind of have to level first, then just sit at level 9, rack up some gold, and then like slow roll and then roll deep as you need more upgrades, and just play around your board like that and like fit in legendaries. That's how it feels like in general, like from the times that I've tried it out. I did place really high with Umbral one time, but the game quality was so bad because basically like I was just like stuck on like I didn't want to post it because it wasn't good, but it was like a Wrath of the Moon game, and I made it work, but like I think I made so many mistakes on my roll down because I was panicking that I was like, if I post this on YouTube, I think I'm gonna get a bunch of dislikes and hate because that's what usually happens. So I was like, I'm just gonna avoid that. I'm too busy with stuff, right? I had a really bad weekend as well. Here we go. We naturaled the Alloon, so that's pretty good. I'm gonna level to 8 probably, and roll slightly, or I might delay it by 1 turn. That guy has a Lux, didn't put the items on the Lux. I don't know what he's doing, but he still didn't sell his units. So I'm just like, okay, whatever. I am holding the Yone and the Ari here, just because I know that it's possible for me to play towards these units, right? I roll a little bit. I'm basically looking for a Silas, if anything. I wanted to put in the Annie, but instead I wasn't fast enough, and the Yone went in. Looking at the field as well, we're running into a different problem, which is like, look at this guy who's hedge fund level 9 on 4-2. It's 4-2. I'm level 8, 10 gold. This guy's level 9 with a Silas 2, right? The lobby is very fucked, right? My prismatic augment was not good. That happens sometimes. The item prismatic augments are usually really bad. You usually want like a combat prismatic. That's like the best thing, or like something that gives you either money or rolls or econ, like one of those things that helps you hit a board, because you're either gonna have like a really strong board, or you're gonna have like a really strong combat to compensate for it. For me, it's like I have neither. And now there's a lot of Silases gone, right? There's that guy holding 2 Silases. There's this guy that has Silas 2 on his board. I think somebody else had a Silas as well, right? So I decided to myself, okay, yeah, this is fucked. I need to pivot. So this is a little bit of a messy round, but we're gonna try our best. I end up finding a Silas, which is just really like sad to me, because like I could have maybe still played this Umbral line. But instead I decide, you know, double adaptive helm JG, that is like quote unquote Syndra bis, or like what is considered good Syndra items. I always say to people, like, don't worry about it. See, this guy also has a Silas too. I remember I was scouting at one point and there was a bunch of people angling towards Kaisa, so I knew that Silas was gonna be contested. And the problem is, like, when you're playing this Umbral line, if you're going for tempo Umbral, which is what I think is the best version of the comp, then you need to hit a Silas 2. Silas 2 with adaptive helm is really fucking strong. Like, the fully adaptive isn't as much like a Yone, a Loon item, as much as it's one of Silas's best items, and you really bring forward a lot of the power with having it. And that's why you want a tempo, because if you don't have a spat, you want to be able to hit 10 Umbral or whatever, or sorry, 6 Umbral, right? But you really need the Silas to do the work, right? Silas holds Spark and Adaptive Helm, and you could give him some other item, right? Any other random item that's does some damage, and he'll go infinite, right? In this type of setup, and that's what makes it really strong, and then you can fix your backline later. Without the Silas 2, I kind of decided to pivot. We're just going to play this build. Fully Adaptive isn't the best on Syndra here, because Syndra doesn't really use the armor that well. It's not that important, but it does set up my items pretty well, right? The biggest problem in making this build of Syndra, where you go Adaptive Helm, JG, is that you run into problems with making shred components later. That's what I always say. I explain it a lot, and I don't really like it for that reason. So here, I still have the Alloon on my board. Don't worry, I know. I'm trying to fit in Dryad to try and stack Dryad. I think it's too late for Dryad. I think I should give up. You lose a lot of value though if you don't have Dryad in, and I didn't have it in all game, which I think hurts me a lot later. It makes my front line very, very like pliable, right? Very weak. But I pair Syndra and Ari, and I'm just trying my best to go through it, right? If we go back to stats, I can show you what I mean with the thing, right? Like, let's say I go Explorer, and let's just go for like Syndra 2-star, and then let's just go like fully adaptive. as you can see, it's like negative delta on Syndra, because a lot of people take this thinking it's good because they want to do this adaptive helm build on Syndra, but fully adaptive isn't that great on Syndra, right? Now, in general, if you're playing like items, right? Let's go like craftable items, Syndra 2. Oh, these are all like fake items. Let's just say like 5 faded, right? Typically the best item is blue buff. Like you typically go like blue buff Nashers, and then it's like blue buff Nashers JG, right? Is there a way to see like item trios? Oh, I think it's like units. Here, let's go units. This will be a little bit better. Syndra. Let's go like this. There we go. So item trios. So if we go like adjusted placement, right? Typically like the sniper emblem one works the best because you're just playing it with the ash board and you're playing like a 4 or 6 sniper setup, so it's like very, very high cap. And we're not looking at the sniper build. The one that usually places the best, like we're searching by placement here because like the other percentages aren't as important to me. I just want like average placement, like as a rough idea. It's blue of JG. Nashor's Tooth is typically the best one, and then after that you can kind of like switch around. Instead of JG, you have Rabadons. Adaptive helm with blue buff because you're just playing like double mana, but like the double adaptive helm build is actually like not that good, right? Now all of these placements are very close together. Obviously it's like a 4.3 versus a 4.2, right? I'm not trying to say like one is significantly better than the other. What I'm saying is like a lot of these builds, it's not worth griefing your game over to put one build over the other, is what I mean to say. And typically when you're playing the double adaptive helm, you run into the problem of a cape, like a cloak, and a tier are both shred components, and then you play the game without shred, and that is usually what makes it worse, right? So it doesn't matter what you think in terms of theory wise how it works, it's more so like how do you like your item economy, right? And this build, as you can see, like a lot of times people are building Shojin, right? Shojin isn't even as good as blue buff, but the reason Shojin is really good on Syndra is because there's no other item you can make in the comp with a sword, right? You can make like a set item for late game, but that's very, very like situational. A lot of times as soon as you get dropped a sword, you're kind of stuck and you have to make Shojin, or else you just have like a dead component, right? And you can try and make like a BT and put it on set, but it's just so much worse that a lot of times you just make Shojin Nashers and you try and make the best out of it, right? And that's how these builds kind of work, right? So that is to say, like, I'm not a big fan. I see here it's augment round again. We skipped and I timed it perfectly. There's Recombobulator. I would have a 2-star 5 cost. I could play like fully adaptive. I was just too scared. I said my board is fixed and I'm decently strong. If I didn't have a fully built board, I would have just picked thing. My biggest problem is this. I have all AP items, right? I have Spark. I have adaptive helms, right? Like, I can put those on a frontline unit, but what if I get dropped, like, you know, what if my 2-star 5 costs are, like, all AD units, right? Like, then I'm kind of fucked, right? That's what I was scared of. Like, who do I put Rabadons on? Who do I put all these other items on? And I have a set, so it's not even that good. So I didn't recombobulate here. But I rolled pretty deep on, I rolled decently on 8. I have a lot of upgrades. I feel like I'm pretty strong. This is another Syndra player, but they have, like, good combat, right? As you can look, my only combat is fully adaptive, and I already showed you that with Syndra, fully adaptive isn't that strong, right? It would have been maybe if I, like, itemized some other units a little bit better, right? My Prismatic Augment is not a strong Prismatic Augment, and then my Silver Augment, there wasn't many good options. I just took the rolling for days one because my plan is that I'm going to level to 9 really fast. And I'm going to try and fix my board on level 9, get a set 2, and get like an Azir, right? Transfer items from this Kindred to the Azir and kind of play around that, right? And then maybe I can play for a little bit higher. It was a bit of a shaky little bit of rounds, right? I started out with like max HP, but I really wanted to pivot off of this Silas line. I'm actually really, sorry, this what's it called, Umbral line, right? There is some things that I do wrong here that I remedy later in my gameplay. I'm not sure if it shows it as well here, but anytime you're playing against a Morgana, so as you can see there's a Morgana that I'm fighting against here, and also if I'm playing against Morgana Lilia, you really should be pairing Syndra with Set, right? Even Syndra, what's said is very situational. What it does, instead of giving more AP, it gives Omnivamp. And the reason you want some Omnivamp is because it makes your front line a little bit tankier, right? Because you don't really care, because like the other line, and it makes your front line a little bit tankier, and it also makes it so that your back line is also a little bit tankier. In this case, it didn't matter because my front line just exploded. I don't even have like upgrades to any of the front line units. They're all 1-starred, right? It is what it is, but I'm kind of planning on going 9 here because I think that my board kind of is a lot better if I find this set 2. And I don't want to roll super deep on 8 just for like these other units. I really want to get like in a 0-2. If I get into 0-2, I think my game is kind of saved, more or less. I think I'm like in a lot better of a spot. But as you can see, my whole front line is 1-star. But typically what happens is when you're playing Lilia or Morgana, they snipe your back line a little bit, and then your Syndra kind of gets whittled down too much. It's a lot, like, technically I have fully adaptive, so the Syndra is gaining the, what's it called? She has the damage, like, she has the damage reduction, like the MR and the armor from the adaptive helms as well. Another thing to note, though, is that fully adaptive is actually kind of a grief sometimes. The Syndra double adaptive helm works really well because maybe this is why it's so bad. Okay, let me explain something to you guys. It might be a little bit hard to understand, but I'll try my best to explain it. When you have the double adaptive helm in the JG, it works really well because the double adaptive helm lines up really nicely so that she does like 1 auto and then casts, right? It might fuck up the timing on some of her attacks. Actually, it still looks like it's 1 auto cast, it's always 1 auto cast. As you can see, I'm just getting run over by people that are like way stronger. This is Keeper's Duelist. Keepers with Duelist is one of the best sets of traits you can have, like Duelist with Keepers. So that's just fucked, right? That's not getting anywhere. I upgraded my front line finally, but it's a little bit too late. Typically, you want like 3 items on Ornn. I put 3 items on Thresh here just because like the way I was itemizing, I had an Ornn 1. I wasn't sure I was going to get Ornn 2, and I didn't want to lock my items onto Ornn. I figured like I'll probably find more Threshes, and I can sell the Thresh and put the items on the Ornn anyways. I have an extra spot here. I just put in a Loon because I'm like, I don't actually know how to cap out this board properly. I'm pretty sure the way you cap out this board is how this guy did it. You see this guy, he has Rakan and he has Nautilus. I'm pretty sure you play Nautilus as a Warden and you drop out of some of the Dryads if you want to like Giga Cap and you don't have a bunch of Dryad stacks. So like I don't have a bunch of Dryad stacks. Here I like almost win this. I just barely win this, but I feel like it was fight RNG. But I don't have an Azir. That's the problem. Azir does like so much damage and it kind of completes the board a little bit better. I'm not sure if this is a Luna's troll or not. I figured like just give some extra front line to my front line and maybe I'm okay, right? That's my thought process. I really want to get items for this set, you know, maybe just make set items, and then I want to transfer kindred items onto an Azir eventually. But I don't think I beat the Duelist guy. I think this guy outcaps me. This Lilia player is scary, and I lost against this Reaper guy, right? The main problem is that because I pivoted into the Syndra line and I wasn't playing Syndra from the start, my Dryad stacks are very low. So my front line should not be Dryad. I should be pivoting it to some other front line, right? I should either put legendary units in, right? Playing this Gnar and this Rek'Sai do absolutely nothing for me because they don't have the HP nor the upgrades to be very strong, right? I can even just play this Alawi, right? But I think I'm just kind of panicked, right? I should have upgraded Alawi, play Alawi over Gnar, play somebody else. I'm kind of more hyper focused on finding the Azir, and that's the problem that I'm having right now. Even Annie would be better, honestly. It's just like anything, like the Dryads don't have enough stacks to be impactful. I take a fully adaptive because fuck it, even though Set's like doesn't really use it that well. Hope maybe it will give Set enough mana to like do another cast and he can like double stun, right? Which might be useful. Yeah, see, he almost got the cast off and then he died. I'm pretty sure I still lose against this guy here. I just don't have the damage and I don't have the front line, right? This is a problem with the Dryad stacks not being good enough, right? Usually Gnar tanks a little bit more. Rek'Sai is usually Azir, so I have a little bit more damage output instead of the Rek'Sai, and the Ornn has more HP. I finally find an Azir, but it's Azir 1. I don't really want to put in the other thing. Now I have Invoker as well, and I think Invoker fucks up the timing with Adaptive Helm and fully adaptive. I think everything's fucked, right? But yeah, with like the fully adaptive, I don't even know if I explained it well when I said I was going to explain it well. I'm kind of on an acid trip. I had food poisoning yesterday from convention. It was just a miserable time. Not yesterday, the day before. And I've just been under the weather for like 3 or 4 days now. I'm probably losing against this guy. I maybe should have been playing for like a 4th here. I think the prismatic and my silver augments not being super beneficial really hurt me. And having to pivot into this line without dryad stacks, this is something you should always note, right? If you don't have dryad stacks early, I should be switching this line for like Nautilus. As you can see, I held a Nautilus. I'm not sure if I rolled past a couple of them. And then, like I said, this is why you pair Omnivamp against Morgana Lilia, because my Syndra just lost too much HP, and it's just a 4th. Now, was that the most interesting game? No, but it was something that, like, hey, try and find a way to pivot, try and find a way to salvage placements, right? As you can see, excuse me, like, let's just go back. We'll just pause on the final board thing, right? Let's just pause right here. As you can see, like, there's a lot of like really strong boards, right? I was able to manage to get a 4th, right, out of HP preservation. The Kane board that went 5th was a board that beat me. They beat me anyways, right? They were stronger than me, but I still outplaced them because I was able to like find a way around it. This wasn't the most optimal setup. I would not take fully adaptive and play towards Syndra, right? This is not a video saying, hey, this is viable. This is a video saying, hey, this is something you can do if you have to, but I wouldn't recommend it. It doesn't quite work well, right? But as you can see, all the people holding Silas's, they all died, right? And I would have been contesting into these 7th, 8th placers that were just playing around this Sylas. I don't know why, right? And the duelist player just really fucking strong. They were probably gonna go first anyways, and the the other Syndra player just had a better board than me, right? What I should do is similar to this Syndra player. This Syndra player doesn't have multiple dryads in, right? They just have the Ornn, but they have a Nautilus too. They have a Rakan, right? Alternating your units for better frontline units is very important. I was kind of in dire straits. I didn't have enough HP nor money to kind of make it work. I was trying to agree to go 9 because hoping that set 2 would have been enough to help me. It wasn't, FYI, so that's like something just to note. But one of the more important things is that I should have probably switched out, or not probably, I should have definitely switched out the Rek'Sai and the Gnar for better units, right? If I could find Nautilus 2, if I could find, even Nautilus 1 was probably better. Just playing like better frontline synergies that would make my board last a little longer, as well as pairing Syndra with Set to give Omnivamp to my faded units, which would help me as well. In some of the fights against like Morgana Lilia, even if I don't beat them, even the Kane board, if I don't beat them, I at least maybe kill a couple more units because my Syndra lives a little bit longer, and my frontline, my Set might live a little bit longer, having like the extra HP and the Omnivamp as well, because my Set's like one of my main tanks. But that's all for today. I'm gonna try and make a tutorial at least one point in this week. I'm still like, recovering from a really grueling weekend. So yeah, hopefully this was informative in some way, and thank you for watching.